Last time on Dragon Ball Z, the Saiyan warrior race has served under the Cold family for years. Though they hated the tyrants, they had no option but to live their lives under their rule. Now, afraid of an old myth that foretold the awakening of a Super Saiyan, Frieza takes it upon himself to rid the universe of the Saiyans, guaranteeing his dominion over space. Bardock, a low-class warrior, is suspicious of Frieza's orders to return to Vegeta. In an effort to save their children, Bardock and Gine find themselves stealing 2 battle pods to liberate their sons, Kakarot and Raditz. What will the future hold for the 2 kids? The future of the Saiyan race is decided now. Hope in the light of brotherhood. What if Raditz was sent with Goku?
The low-class Saiyan Bardock peacefully carried the pods towards an empty space on planet Vegeta. He was glad the prince had denied Raditz's request to go with him on a mission. Now, he could be sent along with his brother. Raditz was upset. He wanted to know what was happening, and why he had to go anywhere with a weakling like his brother. As Bardock placed Kakarot in the pod, Gine explained to Raditz that on Earth, him and his brother would have to survive, but keep a low profile. Bardock and Gine would someday go and get them. She didn't answer many of his questions, as she didn't want Raditz to do something crazy when he's older. Instead, she just told him that the planet he was going to was safer than Vegeta. The parents bid the 2 goodbye, and the pods were sent into space. Not long after, the 2 Saiyan parents perished along with almost every Saiyan in the universe. A light of hope persisted, however, as the kids landed on planet Earth. The crash was violent, and it alerted an old man nearby. The man was Son Gohan, who went to investigate and found Raditz carrying his brother on his back. Kakarot was asleep. Gohan tried to talk to Raditz, but the boy ran away. He was a little afraid. Kakarot and Raditz took shelter inside a cave, where they would eat anything that came their way. Sadly, food wasn't plentiful, but he wanted to keep a low profile like his mother told him. Raditz didn't care much about his brother, but he at least provided him with some food. He also had to keep him away from the full moon, as Raditz knew how dangerous it would be to not just the people of Earth, but him too. Raditz felt humiliated, but he was a bit used to living like this for multiple missions, where he had to live from the wild. Raditz also killed people whenever they got in his way, or got close to him. One day, while Raditz was out collecting food, he returned to find his little brother on the ground. He had fallen ill, thanks to Earth's strange diseases that the child was not prepared for. Without many options left, Raditz carried his brother out, trying to find help. Eventually, he stumbled upon an old house with the lights on, and outside was a man chopping wood with his hands. Raditz came out of the woods, afraid and covered in dirt. It was raining hard, so the old man ran their way immediately when he saw them. He recognized them instantly as the 2 boys he had found next to the weird orbs. He smiled at Raditz and told him that he didn't need to be afraid, and invited them into his home. Gohan took care of Kakarot for the next couple of days, until he was fully recovered. In the meantime, he fed Raditz good food and explained to him who he was, a martial artist. Raditz didn't trust Gohan, but he became intrigued. Though he was not powerful, these humans were impressive and had fighting techniques he had never seen in any other Saiyan. Raditz also explained to Gohan who he was and what they were, and Gohan was perplexed by the idea of a race based around murdering and taking other planets. However, he saw good in the 2 kids. One day, while Raditz was looking over Kakarot, he dropped him, and the poor kid hit his head while falling down. He was okay thanks to Gohan's help, but Raditz never really forgave himself for not taking good care of his brother. After all, he started to like him a little bit. Gohan even sparred with Raditz a few times, but Raditz's punches were too strong. Even Gohan had trouble with them. Though he was not nearly as strong as he will be during the battle against Goku and Piccolo in the original timeline, Raditz was still incredibly strong. Gohan nearly died in their first battle. Raditz was relentless and brutal. Kakarot, who had been watching the fight, managed to stop Raditz by going up to him and hitting his tail. Raditz passed out nearly immediately. Gohan wasn't upset. He realized it was because of how he had been raised, but Gohan noticed that Raditz lacked discipline and formal training. So he offered not only to train Raditz and Kakarot, but also to raise them. Raditz was reluctant, but accepted, realizing he could get something out of this. And so, a family was created from the destruction of a planet. Raditz slowly opened up to Gohan, but was slightly reluctant to. Kakarot, on the other hand, was much more willing to cooperate. This was mostly due to the fact that he did not remember much about Planet Vegeta. Raditz, on the other hand, felt humiliated by having to rely on a human. Gohan gave two things to the kids. Kakarot got the 4-star Dragon Ball, and Raditz got the Power Pole. Though they shared, Raditz used to always bully Kakarot around, teasing him. One day, while Raditz and Kakarot were out looking for food, Kakarot was struck by a car. He nearly destroyed it, until Raditz stopped him. Raditz pointed a key ball at the girl that came out of the car, who apologized and called herself Bulma. She was freaking out, inches from death. But Raditz stopped himself. The two kids took her to their grandpa, who was surprised to see a girl, and even more surprised to know that she was looking for the Dragon Balls. Though Gohan tried to stop her, telling her that it was dangerous, Bulma was too adventurous. Raditz liked this. He wasn't going to help her, but he liked her. Kakarot looked at his Dragon Ball, smiled at it, and told Bulma that they can help her. Gohan refused. But then Bulma allowed him to touch her butt. And so, the gang was set. Gohan did warn Kakarot that he might not get the Dragon Ball back, but he didn't mind, telling him that he can just find it again. Remember that this Goku doesn't have the exact attachment that he did to the Dragon Ball that Grandpa Gohan gave him in the original timeline, since Grandpa Gohan is still alive. Raditz scoffed, but he was getting bored of living peacefully, so he went along with it. On their way to the Dragon Ball, Raditz stood on top of the rock, while everybody rested. Suddenly, it started to move. It was a turtle, far from the sea. Turtle then asked for help, and Raditz asked if he could get some food in return. So, Raditz grabbed the turtle and flew to the sea, where an old man soon arrived. He brought Raditz some food, which he ate quickly. A glimmer from the man's neck caught Raditz's eyes. Raditz had found the next Dragon Ball. He asked the old man for it, but Roshi was reluctant. He mentioned something about a pretty girl. Raditz got an idea, though he was about to kill him anyways. He thought this might actually be more amusing. He rushed back to get Bulma, grabbed her, and took her back to Roshi. Just a peek, and bam! The Dragon Ball was theirs. Gohan and Kakarot soon arrived, and Gohan was pleased to see his old master, Roshi. Roshi asked if these two were the boys that he adopted a few years back, and Gohan confirms it. Roshi then invites Gohan to the island, after their adventure is finished, to train a little. He even tries to give Kakarot the Flying Nimbus, but the two Saiyan boys already knew how to fly. Similar adventures such as these occur through their journey. The monster Oolong is defeated by Raditz and then taken as part of the team. Yamcha is mesmerized by the legendary Gohan and convinced to join the gang, though he rides away from Bulma. They even meet the Ox King, Gohan's old friend, and Kakarot meets his daughter, Chi-Chi. To help out with the fire at the king's castle, Gohan directs his students to look straight on and charge up an attack that he taught them. So together, Raditz and Goku blast the mountain with a Kamehameha, so long and so forth. The team eventually gathered most of the Dragon Balls. The team then gets attacked by the Pilaf gang, but Raditz and Kakarot manage to blow them away and get them to give them the last Dragon Ball. With the Dragon Balls gathered, the dragon is summoned, but they realize that they don't have a wish. Bulma has begun to like Yamcha. Yamcha is no longer afraid of girls, so the field is quiet. Oolong's about to make a wish, but instead, Raditz steps forward and asks,
My wish is to know, are my parents alive?
Shenron takes a pause, but calmly explains that
They were both killed by an evil emperor, along with the rest of the Saiyan race.
Raditz was petrified. All these years he had waited for his parents to come by. Now, that day will never come. He didn't think he'd care, but he was a lot more upset than he thought he'd be. Kakarot was saddened too, and Bulma got teary-eyed as the dragon disappeared. Remember, this Raditz had hope this whole time that he would see his parents, and he did care about them to some degree. He'd also begun to like his brother quite a bit, so the bonds he had to his family are different than the one we know. Gohan hugs Raditz. Everybody comes in for a hug, but the boy exploded his ki and flies away. Kakarot begins to fly after him, and Gohan tells him to take him along too. They find him in a cave, where Kakarot and Raditz lived for a few months, alone. He wanted to be alone, but Kakarot came in and smiled at his brother, extending a hand. He told Raditz that it'll be okay, they just have to get tougher. Someday, they will challenge that evil emperor. Raditz finally smiled back. Gohan came inside and told them that Master Roshi should be waiting for them. Now, with a new mission to get stronger so they can defeat Frieza, the team gets back to say goodbye to their friends, and then to Kame House. Gohan and Roshi trained the duo diligently, and even added a new member, Krillin. Though he was a jerk at first and almost got killed by Raditz a couple of times, The three eventually became like brothers. Both Kakarot and Krillin became much more powerful and skilled than in the original story, thanks to the help and sparring with Raditz. Raditz kind of took them under his wing as far as power goes, while Master Roshi taught them everything about martial arts. Remember, there is a good 9 years since Kakarot and Raditz arrived on Earth. Though Raditz is a lot more violent than his brother, he is very much used to this world by now, and begun to take an appreciation to the people. The team enters the Tenkaichi Budokai. It was obvious that Raditz would be the winner, so Gohan and Roshi proposed a challenge to him. He was not to use his full power, but rather just his martial arts skills. Raditz took on this challenge, but even with this handicap, he did very well. Even with great warriors like Yamcha, Nam, and Jackie Chun, Raditz made it all the way to the final stages of the tournament. In the semifinals, Raditz battled his brother, Kakarot, while Krillin battled Jackie Chun. The battle between brothers was explosive and crazy, with the arena nearly getting destroyed. The battle culminated in a final Kamehameha battle between the two, with Raditz floating up on top and Kakarot on the ground. But Raditz came out on top when he let go of the blast, took a sidestep to avoid it, and used a double Sunday from above. Kakarot was knocked out of the arena, and Raditz was the winner. The final round was Jackie Chun versus Raditz. Even though Raditz should have won easily, Jackie used varied techniques to bring him down to his knees, such as the Drunken Fist and other attacks. Even so, eventually Raditz defeated the Master. The day ended with our heroes celebrating Raditz's victory, who used the money to buy food. Raditz told the gang that he wanted to find the Dragon Balls, specifically the one that Gohan had given him and Kakarot. Bulma shares with him the Dragon Radar. Kakarot wants to go as well, and Raditz tells him to do whatever he wants. The team separates once more, with Krillin and Yamcha staying behind to train with Gohan and Roshi. Gohan tells the two boys to be careful, just as they fly away. As the two find the Dragon Balls, they encounter the Red Ribbon Army, who they easily defeat and take the Dragon Balls off of. Eventually, the army headquarters are alerted, and Red gathers his top men and women, as they knew the headquarters would be eventually attacked. And sure enough, as the day turned into night, Kakarot and Raditz arrived at the base, with only 2 Dragon Balls left to find. Tao Pai Pai was there too, and other higher-ups waited for them at the center of the base. Black was already inside a giant mech. As they walked inside, Black ordered everybody to fire, and the soldiers from the towers and the ground all fired at the 2 boys. Once the smoke cleared, Kakarot was nowhere to be found, and Raditz was unfazed. He had created a key sphere around him that took every hit. He then took the power pole from his back and swung it hard across, demolishing the towers around. Meanwhile, Kakarot had dodged out of the way and was fighting against Black's mech. Raditz destroyed everybody around without mercy, and Kakarot was getting a bit worried about him. Kakarot was having some trouble of his own, however, and Raditz watched as Kakarot was getting hurt. He yelled at him about Saiyan pride, and that he's a strong Saiyan warrior. Suddenly, Kakarot stopped fighting. Raditz realized what had happened. He had looked straight at the moon. A full moon. Raditz kept himself from looking into it. He had to stop Kakarot somehow, or he could kill him. The Ozaru instantly destroyed the base and the mech. Raditz had to keep his eyes down, or he would transform too. Then, nobody would be able to stop either of them. The Ozaru began to sprint over the forest nearby that led into the city. Raditz tried to get in his way before he could possibly destroy one of the Dragon Balls. But the Ozaru punched him so hard that it sent him hurtling into a building. Raditz got back up, but the Ozaru was already in the middle of the city. Raditz rushed his way. Buildings were crumbling around them, but Raditz had to swallow his pride. He would have to cut his brother's tail, as much as he didn't want to. That was the one thing connecting him to the Saiyan race. He dodged the Ozaru's punches until he finally got behind him. Raditz then shot a giant Saturday Crush at the tail, burning it off. Kakarot returned to normal. Raditz took Kakarot and flew him far away from the city. Once Kakarot woke back up, he had trouble standing, but didn't care much. Raditz yelled at him, saying that his tail was important, but realized that it was to no avail. Then the two agreed to head towards the last Dragon Ball that they were missing, at the sacred lands of Korin. Once there, they find Bora, who holds the 4-star Dragon Ball. Raditz wants to take it by force, but Kakarot convinces him to let him just talk to him. After explaining the significance of the Dragon Ball to him, Bora gifts it to him. The two then ask about the huge tower, and they find out that is a legendary relic that very few had managed to climb up. Kakarot and Raditz look at each other, nod, and immediately begin to climb up it in a race. Raditz tried to fly up, but when he got to the top, he barely got a glimpse of a cat before he was sent back down. He wouldn't be able to fly up this one. Meanwhile, Kakarot was nearly up top, just as Raditz was catching up. Finally, Kakarot got there first, Raditz right behind. Master Korin awaited them and introduced them to the sacred water, but they had to catch him first. Before he even finished the sentence, Kakarot and Raditz both caught him at once. They were too fast, and he awarded them with the real sacred water that boosted them both up. They felt that it was about time to regroup with Roshi and Gohan, so they went back to Kame House. Once there, they were encouraged to go out on separate ways to train by themselves. So each fighter did just that. Krillin, Yamcha, Raditz, and Kakarot headed on separate directions. Sometime later, after getting significantly stronger, they reunited and found themselves once again at the Tenkaichi Budokai. The Crane students battled against the Kame students during this tournament, and the final battle was between Tenshinhan and Raditz. But Raditz came out victorious after a tough battle, where Tenshinhan used his multi-form technique that almost defeated Raditz, just because of how tricky it was. The team goes to celebrate, and Bulma realizes that there's something beeping in Raditz's bag. She asked what it was. Raditz pulled out a scouter, the one he had when they landed. It was actually reading Krillin's power level by accident. After explaining what it was, Raditz gave it to Bulma. He didn't need it anymore, so he thought she might get some use out of it. They then talked about going and searching for the last Dragon Ball they were missing, just for fun. Unknown to them, the scouter picked up this conversation, and two other Saiyans heard about them, Vegeta and Nappa. They recognized Raditz's voice, and decided to go to Earth, though not for a while. It would take some years for them to get everything ready. They wanted to take down Frieza. Back at the tournament temple, something terrible had happened. Both Kakarot and Raditz felt it. They returned to see Gohan dead on the floor, while Krillin battled against Tambourine. Though he was doing very well, Tambourine was pushing him back. Finally, Raditz intervened to hold back Tambourine as Krillin fired a Kamehameha at him. Krillin apologized for not being able to save Gohan, but Raditz was too upset to care about anything. He picked up Tambourine and asked him who the hell he was. Tambourine immediately managed to get away and began to fly off. Raditz and Kakarot went after him. Yamcha wants to go help, but his leg is broken, so instead, the two kids go after the villain. Sadly, Chaozu and many other Tenkaichi Budokai members were defeated as well. So Krillin, Raditz, and Kakarot catch up quickly to Tambourine. He stands no chance, and they defeat him quickly. They suddenly sense a huge presence. The ship was coming straight for them. As they had most of the Dragon Balls, he would never take no for an answer. Piccolo landed and explained who he was, then showed Kakarot and Raditz that he had the only Dragon Ball they were missing. Before Krillin could even move, both Kakarot and Raditz were already fighting against Piccolo. This wasn't Frieza, but it was the second closest thing they would get to him. They had to go all out. As Kakarot raced towards Piccolo, Drum and other demonic children got in the way. While Kakarot took care of them, Piccolo was Raditz's. At this point, Kakarot and Raditz are around, if not above, what they would be at the start of the Saiyan arc, thanks to their years of training together. So Piccolo stood no chance, especially since he didn't have the chance to wish for immortality. Raditz's anger explodes further once Piccolo pronounces himself as the ruler of the world. Kakarot finishes off the minions, as Raditz kicks Piccolo from the back towards Kakarot. Raditz yelled out his brother's name, and he knew what to do. Piccolo knew this may be the end, so with the last bit of energy he had left, created one more offspring that he sped out, just as Raditz and Kakarot shot out a Kamehameha from both directions that instantly killed Piccolo. Raditz, who had seen the Demon King spit out an egg, immediately went to the place where he had seen it land. Though he looked for his key presents, he couldn't find anything. Both him and Kakarot stumbled upon an egg, but it had been cracked open, with no child inside. The two kids had to resign back to Papaya Island. Everyone gathered around, including Tenshinhan, who was holding the dead Chaozu. This time, Krillin made the wish to bring back everyone that had been killed by the evil Piccolo Daimyo during this time period. So, Gohan wakes up from the dead. Roshi and Gohan tell them how proud they are of everybody. And finally, they actually have time to celebrate. Little did they know that two menaces were already coming their way. But before then, they had years of training to do. But this is where I will leave off this story. This video is already really long, and I know it's gonna take me forever to edit it, but I know there's a lot more of this story that I could tell. I'm really excited to delve into the relationship between the two Saiyans on Earth and the two Saiyans under Frieza's command. Tell me down below, what do you think could happen with this? Where do you think I could go with this? Who knows, maybe you'll be right. Anyways guys, this has been Smugstick. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to share, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. We're almost at 20k guys, only about 4,000 left. Come on, join the Smug Squad. Until we meet again, see ya!
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Smugstick, unless you want to be destroyed.
Lord Beerus, that's hardly fair. But also, don't forget to click the bell icon to get notified when he uploads new videos.